Admiral Katie Morrison stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched another star die. The view screen showed a bright yellow sun that had burned for billions of years suddenly collapse into darkness. Around it, planets that had been home to millions of people dissolved into nothing. "How many more systems have we lost?" Katie asked her science officer. Dr. Alex Bennett looked up from his console with tired eyes. 47 star systems in the past month, Admiral. The Void Swarm is moving faster than ever before. Katie clenched her fists. The Galactic Federation had ruled space for 3,000 years. They had brought peace to hundreds of worlds and stopped countless wars. Now everything they had built was being destroyed by an enemy they could not understand. The enemy called itself nothing. It had no name and no voice. The Federation scientists called it the Void Swarm because it looked like a dark cloud that ate everything in its path. It moved from star to star, turning planets into twisted masses of black energy. Every world it touched became part of its growing body. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Lisa Park from her station. "We have incoming messages from the refugee fleets. Put them through." The main screen filled with desperate faces from dozens of different alien species. A blue-skinned Altarian commander spoke first. "Admiral Morrison, our homeworld is gone. The swarm consumed it in 3 hours. We managed to evacuate 2 million people, but 15 billion other." His voice broke. Katie had heard similar reports every day for months. Entire civilizations were disappearing. Species that had existed for millions of years were becoming extinct in a matter of hours. A reptilian Zephyrian admiral appeared next. "Admiral, our battle fleets engaged the swarm near Rigel 7. We hit it with everything we had. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, reality bombs. Nothing worked. The swarm just absorbed our attacks and became stronger." Katie nodded grimly. Every weapon the Federation had ever built proved useless against this enemy. Worse, the swarm seemed to learn from each attack. Weapons that hurt it once never worked again. "What about the core worlds?" Katie asked. "Are they still holding?" Dr. Bennett shook his head. "The swarm has broken through the inner defense line. It will reach Earth Federation space within 6 months." Earth Federation space was not where humans lived. It was named after the old human homeworld that the Federation had discovered centuries ago. But the humans themselves were forbidden from joining the Federation. They lived in a quarantine zone that no Federation ship was allowed to enter. "Admiral," Lisa said quietly, "I'm receiving surrender messages from 38 Federation worlds. They're giving up without a fight." Katie closed her eyes. She could not blame them. How do you fight an enemy that eats planets? How do you battle something that grows stronger with every attack? The Federation military had lost over 90% of its ships. The remaining fleets were scattered across the galaxy trying to protect refugee convoys. "There might be one option," Dr. Bennett said carefully. Katie turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" Alex hesitated, then activated his workstation. A star map appeared showing the galaxy. Most of it was now covered in the dark stain of the Void Swarm. But in one small corner, a group of yellow stars still shone brightly. "The human quarantine zone," Alex said. "They're still there." Katie stared at the map. 200 years ago, humans had asked to join the Galactic Federation. The Federation Council had studied them carefully and made a terrible decision. Humans were too dangerous to be allowed into galactic society. The reports from that time were classified, but Katie had read them. Humans were not like other species. They did not fight wars to win territory or resources. They fought wars to completely destroy their enemies. They had weapons that could kill entire worlds and the willingness to use them. "The quarantine protocols are still in effect," Katie said. "Contact with humans is forbidden." "Admiral," Alex said softly, "the protocols were written to protect the galaxy from humans. But now the galaxy is dying anyway. Maybe it's time to ask the most dangerous species we know for help." Katie looked back at the view screen. Another star had gone dark while they talked. Somewhere in that darkness, billions of people had just died. The Federation was supposed to protect them, but they had failed. "What makes you think humans would help us?" Katie asked. "We rejected them. We quarantined them like a disease." "Because," Alex said, "they're still human. And according to our old reports, humans have one trait that makes them different from every other species in the galaxy." "What's that?" "They never give up. Even when they're losing, even when they're dying, they keep fighting. Maybe that's exactly what we need right now." Katie thought about all the refugee ships scattered across space. She thought about the empty worlds where billions had lived just days ago. She thought about the children who would never grow up, because their planets had been eaten by something that should not exist. The Galactic Federation was built on principles of peace and cooperation. They solved problems through discussion and compromise. They fought wars with honor and mercy, but those principles meant nothing against an enemy that could not be reasoned with or defeated. "Contact the Federation Council," Katie ordered. "Tell them I'm calling an emergency session. We need to discuss the human option." "Admiral," Lisa said, "the Council has already refused to consider breaking quarantine. They said it 3 times this month." "Then we'll ask them a 4th time," Katie replied. "And if they refuse again, we'll have to decide what's more important. Following Federation law or saving Federation lives." Alex began preparing his presentation. Katie knew it would be the hardest decision the Federation had ever made. They were asking to invite the most dangerous species in the galaxy to help save them. It was like asking a pack of wolves to protect sheep. But as another star went dark on the view screen, Katie realized they were out of options. The Void Swarm was unstoppable. The Federation military was broken. Their allies were surrendering faster than they could count. Maybe it was time to fight monsters with monsters. Maybe it was time to call the humans. The emergency council meeting took place aboard the massive ship called New Galaxy. It was the largest vessel in the Federation fleet and served as their mobile capital since their real capital world had been consumed by the Void Swarm 2 weeks ago. The council chamber was filled with representatives from every remaining Federation species. Some sat in chairs, others floated in gas bubbles, and a few existed as pure energy beings contained in special boxes. All of them were arguing. Elder Vex of the Altarian people raised his forearms for silence. His blue skin was pale with stress. "The proposal before us is madness. We quarantined the humans for good reason. They are too dangerous to be allowed into civilized space." Dr. Alex Bennett stood in the center of the chamber. Around him, holographic displays showed data that most council members had never seen before. The information was classified at the highest levels, locked away in archives that required special permission to access. 237 years ago, Alex began. Humans applied for Federation membership. We sent our best scientists to study them. What we found terrified us. The first hologram showed Earth as it had been centuries ago. Great cities covered the continents. Massive factories reshaped entire landscapes. Ships moved between Earth and its moon, carrying millions of tons of cargo every day. The humans had achieved faster than light travel on their own, Alex continued. They had colonized 12 worlds in their local area. Their technology was almost equal to ours. But that wasn't what scared us. The next hologram showed human military forces. Soldiers in powered armor carrying weapons that could level buildings. Warships armed with missiles that could crack planets. Space stations designed to build weapons of mass destruction. What scared us was how they thought about war, Alex said. Every other species in the galaxy fights to achieve specific goals. We fight to capture territory, to control resources, to force political changes. Humans fight for only one reason. Ambassador Chen Wei of the Tau Setian colonies leaned forward. Her bioluminescent patches flickered nervously. "What reason is that?" "To make sure their enemies can never threaten them again," Alex replied. "Human military doctrine is not based on winning battles. It's based on total destruction of opposition forces." The hologram changed to show recordings from human wars. Armies that kept fighting even when outnumbered 10-1. Soldiers who chose to die rather than surrender. Cities that were completely destroyed rather than captured. The psychological profiles were very clear, Alex continued. Humans do not have the same survival instincts as other species. When threatened, most species will run away or surrender if the situation becomes hopeless. Humans become more dangerous when the situation is hopeless. Elder Vex's translator crackled as he spoke. "This is exactly why we quarantined them. They are a violent species that cannot be trusted." "But violence isn't always wrong," said a new voice from the chamber entrance. Everyone turned to see Admiral Katie Morrison walking into the room. She looked tired and grim. Behind her came reports from the latest refugee fleets. "The Void Swarm has broken through the Sirius defense line," Katie announced. "We lost 43 ships trying to slow it down. The swarm barely noticed our attacks." She walked to the center of the chamber and looked at each council member in turn. In the past month, we have lost 68 star systems. That's 68 worlds where billions of people lived and worked and raised families. All gone. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the numbers, but hearing them spoken aloud made them feel real. Our conventional weapons don't work, Katie continued. Our best strategies have failed. Our allies are surrendering because they know we can't protect them anymore. The Federation is dying. She gestured to Alex's holograms. Dr. Bennett is showing you classified information about humans because we're out of options. Yes, humans are violent. Yes, they're dangerous. But maybe that's exactly what we need right now. Ambassador Chen Wei stood up. Admiral Morrison, even if we wanted to contact the humans, we don't know if they would help us. We rejected them. We treated them like criminals and locked them away. That's true, Katie admitted. But I've been reading the old reports about human psychology. Humans have something called empathy. They feel emotional pain when others suffer, even if those others are not part of their group. Alex nodded and changed the hologram to show human history. Look at their wars. Humans often fought to protect people they had never met. They sent soldiers to die for strangers on the other side of their planet. When natural disasters struck, humans from all over their world would send help. They also, Elder Vex pointed out, committed terrible acts of violence against their own species. Yes, Alex agreed. But they also learned from those mistakes. By the time we encountered them, humans had achieved global peace on their homeworld. They had learned to work together. Katie activated her own holographic display. It showed the current state of the galaxy. The dark stain of the void swarm covered more than half of known space. The remaining Federation territory looked like a few small islands in an ocean of darkness. The question isn't whether humans are dangerous, Katie said. The question is whether we can afford not to ask for their help. In 6 months, maybe less, the swarm will reach the core systems. After that, there won't be a Federation left to protect. The council members began talking among themselves in their various languages. Some spoke with sound, others with flashing lights, and a few with chemical signals that filled the air with strange smells. Finally, Elder Vex spoke for the group. If we do this, if we break the quarantine and contact the humans, what do we offer them in return for their help? Katie had been expecting this question. Federation membership, full voting rights in the council, access to all our technology and trade networks. Absolutely not, said Ambassador Chen Wei. That's exactly what we refused to give them before. Before, we had the luxury of choice, Katie replied. Now we don't. We either accept humans as equals, or we all die as the galaxy's last meal. The voting took 3 hours. In the end, the council approved contact with humanity by a margin of just 2 votes. Many members abstained, unable to choose between their fear of humans and their fear of extinction. As the meeting ended, Elder Vex approached Katie. Admiral, I hope you understand what you've convinced us to do. We're about to invite the most dangerous species in the galaxy to join our civilization. Katie looked out through the chamber's viewports at the dark space where stars used to shine. Elder Vex, if we survive this, then dealing with dangerous humans will be a luxury problem. Right now, our only choice is between dangerous allies or certain death. The message drone was prepared within hours. It carried a simple communication to the human quarantine zone. After 2 centuries of silence, the Galactic Federation was finally ready to talk. Captain Greg Palmer had volunteered for many dangerous missions during his 20 years in the Federation fleet. He had explored unknown star systems, negotiated with hostile aliens, and fought pirates in the Outer Rim. But nothing had prepared him for this. The stealth ship Whisper dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Around Greg, his small crew worked quietly at their stations. They all knew they were making history. No Federation ship had entered human space for over 200 years. Cloaking field is active, reported his tactical officer. We should be invisible to human sensors. Greg nodded and looked at the main display. The Sol system looked very different from the old records. When the Federation had first discovered humans, they had colonized only a few worlds near their home planet. Now Greg could see evidence of human activity throughout the entire system. Massive space stations orbited every planet. Asteroid mining operations had carved geometric patterns into the asteroid belt. Ships moved in steady streams between worlds, carrying cargo and passengers. The energy signatures suggested an industrial capacity that rivaled entire Federation sectors. "Sir," called Communications Officer Nina Rodriguez, "I'm detecting something unusual. There appears to be some kind of battle happening near the fourth planet." Greg moved to her station and looked at the sensor readings. 2 large fleets were engaged in combat near Mars. Explosions bloomed silently in space as ships maneuvered with aggressive precision. "Are they at war with someone?" Greg asked. Nina studied the communication signals she was intercepting. "No, sir, this appears to be a training exercise. They call it War Games Alpha 7. According to their radio chatter, this is routine military practice." Dr. Alex Bennett, who had insisted on joining this mission, looked up from his analysis station. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures from their weapons that exceed our most optimistic projections. They've advanced much further than we expected." Greg stared at the tactical display. The mock battle involved over 3,000 ships. Their weapons could destroy cities. Their defensive systems bent space and time. Most disturbing was how casual it all seemed. This wasn't their main fleet preparing for war. This was just practice. "How many ships do they have in total?" Greg asked. Alex ran calculations on his computer. "Based on the industrial signatures and the ships we can detect, I estimate they have at least 50,000 military vessels. Possibly twice that number." Greg felt a chill run down his spine. The entire Federation fleet before the Void Swarm had numbered about 20,000 ships. And that was accumulated over 3,000 years of civilization. Humans had built a larger fleet in just 2 centuries. "Sir," Nina said, her voice tight with concern, "we're being hailed." "That's impossible. Our cloaking technology is the most advanced in the galaxy." "They know we're here, sir." The main screen activated without Greg's permission. A human woman appeared wearing what looked like a military uniform. She had short brown hair and calm, intelligent eyes. Behind her, Greg could see a command center full of activity. "Federation vessel," the woman said. "This is Admiral Rachel Brooks of the Earth Defense Command. Your stealth technology is impressive, but we've been tracking you since you entered our system." Greg exchanged shocked glances with his crew. Their most advanced technology had been detected by a species the Federation considered primitive. "Admiral Brooks," Greg said carefully, "I am Captain Palmer of the Galactic Federation. We request permission to speak with your leadership." Rachel's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Greg suddenly understood why the Federation had been afraid of humans. There was something in that look that suggested she was already thinking 3 steps ahead of him. "Captain Palmer, we've been monitoring Federation communications for decades. We know about the Void Swarm. We know about the refugee fleets. We know about the systems you've lost." Nina gasped quietly. "Sir, they've been spying on us." "Not spying," Rachel corrected, somehow hearing Nina's whisper. "Preparing. We knew that eventually the Federation would become desperate enough to contact us." Greg felt like he was losing control of the conversation. "Admiral, we come seeking assistance with a threat that endangers the entire galaxy." "I know exactly why you're here," Rachel replied. "The question is how desperate you've become. Desperate enough to ignore 2 centuries of quarantine? Desperate enough to ask the dangerous humans for help?" She paused, and Greg could see other humans working at stations behind her. They moved with efficiency and purpose like a machine designed for war. "Here's what's going to happen," Rachel continued. "You're going to dock with our station. You're going to present your formal request for assistance, and then we're going to negotiate terms." "Terms?" Greg asked. "Captain, surely you didn't think we would help you for free. The Federation rejected us. You quarantined us like we were some kind of disease. You made it clear that humans weren't welcome in your civilized galaxy." Alex leaned forward. "Admiral Brooks, the situation has changed. The Void Swarm threatens all life in the galaxy, including human life." Rachel smiled, and that smile made Greg's blood run cold. "Dr. Bennett, the swarm is indeed a threat. But it's not in human space yet. We have time to prepare. The question is whether the Federation has time to survive without our help." The communication screen changed to show a tactical analysis of the Void Swarm's advance. The human computers had tracked its movement with frightening accuracy. "By our calculations," Rachel said, "the swarm will reach Federation core worlds in approximately 5 months and 12 days. It will arrive at the edge of human space in approximately 4 years and 7 months." Greg realized what she was saying. "You could wait and fight the swarm when it reaches you." "Exactly. We could let the Federation fall and then deal with a weakened swarm on our own terms. It would be the safe choice. But you won't do that, Alex said quietly. Rachel's expression softened slightly. No, Dr. Bennett, we won't. Despite what your reports say about us, humans don't like watching genocide happen. Even when the victims once rejected us. She paused and looked directly at Greg. But helping you will cost human lives. Our ships will be destroyed. Our soldiers will die. And when this is over, we want something in return. What do you want? Greg asked. Full Federation membership, voting rights in the Galactic Council, access to all Federation technology and trade networks, and most importantly, an end to the quarantine. Greg felt the weight of the decision. He had no authority to make such promises. Admiral, I'll need to consult with my superiors. Of course. But Captain, while you're consulting, remember that every day you delay, more Federation worlds die. The swarm doesn't wait for diplomatic negotiations. The communication ended, leaving Greg and his crew staring at a blank screen. Sir, Nina said quietly. What do we do now? Greg looked at the display showing the human fleet. 50,000 ships, weapons that exceeded Federation technology, and the industrial capacity to build more if needed. The Federation had spent 2 centuries being afraid of humans. Now they needed those same humans to save them. We dock with their station, Greg said, and we hope that desperate times make for strange allies. The human space station was enormous. Admiral Katie Morrison had seen Federation shipyards and alien megastructures, but nothing like this. The station stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its hull covered with weapon arrays and sensor equipment. Docking ports could accommodate thousands of ships at once. Katie walked through the station corridors with Dr. Alex Bennett and a small diplomatic team. Human guards escorted them, wearing armor that looked both protective and intimidating. The guards were polite but alert, watching everything with professional attention. Admiral Morrison, one guard said, Admiral Brooks is waiting for you in Conference Room Alpha. The conference room felt more like a military command center than a diplomatic venue. Holographic displays showed real-time information about fleet movements, resource allocations, and strategic analyses. 3 humans sat at the central table. Admiral Rachel Brooks looked exactly like she had on the communication screen, calm and confident. General Pete Harrison was older, with scars on his face that suggested he had seen combat personally. Dr. Susan Clark appeared to be their science advisor, her workstation covered with data about the Void Swarm. Admiral Morrison, Rachel said, standing to greet them. Welcome to Fortress Sol. Please sit. Katie took her seat across from the humans, studying their faces. These people didn't look like the violent savages described in the old Federation reports. They looked like competent military professionals. Let me understand the current situation, Rachel began, activating a holographic display of the galaxy. The Void Swarm has consumed approximately 43% of Federation space. It adapts to conventional weapons within hours of first exposure. Current Federation forces are insufficient to mount effective resistance. That's correct, Katie confirmed. Every strategy we've tried has failed. The entity learns from our attacks and becomes immune to them. General Harrison leaned forward, his expression intense. And your military doctrine is based on what principles? Alex answered. Overwhelming force applied efficiently. Quick victories with minimal casualties. We fight to achieve specific objectives, then negotiate peace terms. Clean wars, Dr. Clark said with a slight smile. Civilized conflicts with rules and honor codes. Yes, Katie said. The Federation believes that violence should be the last resort, and when necessary, it should be limited and purposeful. Rachel nodded slowly. That's your problem. The Void Swarm isn't fighting a civilized war. It's fighting for survival and expansion. It doesn't care about honor or rules or limiting casualties. She gestured, and the display changed to show human military doctrine. Katie felt her stomach tighten as she read the tactical principles. Human warfare was designed around total destruction of enemy forces. They planned for massive casualties on both sides. They used weapons that the Federation would consider war crimes. Your people fight wars to win quickly and cleanly, General Harrison said. We fight wars to ensure our enemies can never threaten us again. There's a fundamental difference in approach. Dr. Clark activated another display showing human technological developments. While the Federation has been fighting the swarm with conventional weapons, we've been preparing for it. Our entire military-industrial complex has been redesigned based on intelligence we've gathered. The images showed weapons that defied Federation understanding. Devices that manipulated matter at the quantum level, ships designed to ram enemy positions at significant fractions of light speed. Most disturbing were weapons that appeared to damage space-time itself. These weapons, Katie said slowly, they're designed to destroy planets. They're designed to destroy anything that threatens humanity, Rachel corrected. The Federation has rules about acceptable weapons and proportional response. We don't. Alex studied the technical specifications. Some of these designs violate the fundamental laws of galactic warfare. Dr. Bennett, General Harrison said, the Void Swarm violates the fundamental laws of physics. You can't fight an impossible enemy with conventional methods. Rachel stood and walked to a new display showing casualty projections. Here's what fighting the swarm will cost. We estimate that defeating it completely will require the sacrifice of at least 30% of our fleet. That's 15,000 ships and roughly 2 million human lives. Katie felt the weight of those numbers. You're willing to accept those losses? To protect the galaxy? Yes. To protect species that once rejected us? Yes. Because that's what humans do when faced with extinction-level threats. Dr. Clark pulled up historical records from human wars. Admiral, humans have a concept called acceptable losses. When something threatens our survival, we calculate how much we're willing to sacrifice to eliminate that threat completely. The records showed human conflicts where millions had died to achieve strategic objectives, cities destroyed to deny them to enemies, entire armies sacrificed to buy time for civilians to escape. This is exactly why the Federation quarantined you, Katie said quietly. Yes, Rachel agreed. You were afraid of what we might become, but now you need exactly what you feared. General Harrison activated a tactical display showing the Void Swarm's current position. The entity has one weakness. It learns from patterns and adapts to repeated strategies. But humans at war don't follow patterns. What do you mean? Alex asked. We mean, Dr. Clark said, that human military doctrine embraces chaos and unpredictability. We don't fight the same way twice. We use different strategies for every battle, even if those strategies are less efficient. Rachel returned to her seat and looked directly at Katie. The price of our help is simple. Full Federation membership for humanity, voting rights in the Galactic Council, access to all Federation technology and trade networks. Most importantly, the complete end of our quarantine. Katie felt the weight of the decision. You're asking us to invite the most dangerous species in the galaxy into positions of power. We're asking you to treat us as equals, Rachel replied. The same thing we asked for 200 years ago. The Federation will never agree to those terms, Alex said. The Council is too afraid of human influence. General Harrison smiled grimly. Then the Federation will die, because without human help, you have maybe 6 months before the swarm consumes your remaining worlds. Rachel activated a final display showing human fleet positions. Admiral Morrison, we're not asking for charity. We're offering a trade. Human military power in exchange for political recognition. Katie stared at the tactical display showing human capabilities. 50,000 warships, weapons that could crack planets, industrial capacity that dwarfed the entire Federation, and most importantly, a species that was willing to accept massive casualties to achieve total victory. If we agree, Katie said slowly, and you help us defeat the swarm, what guarantee do we have that you won't use your military power against Federation worlds? Rachel's expression became deadly serious. Admiral, you have the guarantee that humans keep their word. When we make an agreement, we honor it. That's why we've stayed in quarantine for 2 centuries despite having the power to break out. She paused, then continued. But understand this. If you refuse our help and the Federation falls, we'll remember that you chose death rather than accept us as equals. Dr. Clark added quietly. And when we eventually defeat the swarm ourselves, we'll remember that we had to watch genocide happen while potential allies debated whether we were civilized enough to help. Katie looked around the room at the 3 humans. They weren't making threats or trying to intimidate her. They were simply stating facts about consequences and choices. I'll need to present your terms to the Federation Council, Katie said. Of course, Rachel replied. But Admiral, while you're debating, remember that every day costs thousands of lives. The swarm doesn't pause for political discussions. As Katie prepared to leave, General Harrison made one final statement. Admiral Morrison, you came here because you need monsters to fight a monster. We're offering to be your monsters. The question is whether you're desperate enough to accept. Katie walked back to her ship knowing that the Federation faced an impossible choice: accept humanity's terms and risk being dominated by a dangerous ally, or refuse and face certain extinction from an unstoppable enemy. Either way, the galaxy would never be the same. The combined human Federation fleet assembled at the Rigel system, the staging area for what humans called Operation Absolute. Admiral Katie Morrison stood on the bridge of her flagship, now dwarfed by the massive human dreadnoughts surrounding them. The human fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships built not for exploration or even conquest, but for the complete annihilation of their enemies. The flagship Humanity's Wrath stretched for over 10 kilometers, its hull bristling with weapons that made Federation technology look primitive. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park, "the humans are requesting all Federation ships maintain minimum distance of 50,000 kilometers from their battle line." Before Katie could respond, Admiral Rachel Brooks appeared on the main screen. Behind her, human crew members worked with calm efficiency, preparing for battle as if it were routine maintenance. "Federation fleet," Rachel's voice came through clearly. "You're about to witness humanity at war. What you see may disturb you. Remember that you asked for this." Dr. Alex Bennett watched his sensors with growing horror as the Void Swarm approached. The entity was massive beyond comprehension, larger than anything they had faced before. It had absorbed the mass of hundreds of star systems, becoming a wall of dark energy that consumed light itself. "Human fleet," Katie called over the communication channel. "Are you certain your weapons can penetrate that thing?" Rachel's voice carried no doubt whatsoever. "Admiral Morrison, our weapons aren't designed to penetrate it. They're designed to make it suffer." The human ships moved into formation with mechanical precision. As they approached the swarm, Katie watched in amazement as they deployed weapons she didn't recognize. Devices that seemed to tear holes in reality itself. Projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Energy beams that caused space to fold inward on itself. "What kind of weapons are those?" Alex asked in disbelief. General Harrison's voice came over the fleet channel. "Quantum disruptors, reality bombs, and temporal shears. We built them specifically to fight enemies that violate the normal laws of physics." But what truly shocked Katie was the human tactical approach. They weren't trying to outmaneuver the enemy or find weak points. They were charging directly into the swarm's center, accepting massive casualties while inflicting proportionally greater damage. "They're sacrificing their own ships," Alex said, watching the tactical display in horror. "Not sacrificing," came Dr. Clark's voice over the communication system, "delivering payload. Each ship that makes contact is carrying enough antimatter to sterilize a solar system." Katie watched as human ships died by the hundreds, but each death took massive chunks of the swarm with it. The humans demonstrated the same dangerous persistence that had terrified the Federation centuries ago. They weren't fighting to win quickly or efficiently. They were fighting to ensure their enemy was completely destroyed. The Void Swarm responded as it always did, trying to adapt to the human attacks. But something was different this time. The adaptation process was slower, less effective. "It's having trouble learning from our tactics," Dr. Clark explained over the fleet channel. "The entity adapts to patterns and efficient strategies, but humans at war aren't efficient. We're willing to use any method, accept any cost, become any kind of monster necessary to protect what we love." The battle became something beyond normal warfare. It was mutual annihilation on a scale that defied understanding. Human ships continued their relentless assault, using weapons that damaged the fabric of space itself. Some ships rammed the swarm at near light speed, converting their entire mass into destructive energy. "Admiral," Lisa said quietly, "I'm reading massive casualties in the human fleet. They've lost over 8,000 ships." Katie felt sick watching the destruction. Each of those ships contained hundreds of human lives. But the humans kept fighting with the same calm determination they had shown from the beginning. Then something changed. The Void Swarm, which had adapted to every previous attack, began to show signs of structural failure. Its consumption rate slowed, then stopped entirely. Parts of the entity began breaking away from the main mass. "It's not adapting fast enough," Alex said in amazement. "How is that possible?" Dr. Clark's voice explained what they were seeing. "The entity learns from efficiency and rational tactical approaches. But human warfare isn't rational. We use strategies that are deliberately wasteful and chaotic because unpredictability is more important than efficiency." Katie realized what she was witnessing. Humanity had created an entire military doctrine specifically designed to be impossible to adapt to. They accepted massive casualties and resource waste because confusion was a weapon in itself. The swarm began to collapse inward, its dark energy structure destabilizing as the human weapons continued their relentless assault. Katie watched as sections of the entity simply dissolved into scattered particles. The swarm fed on civilizations that fought to preserve themselves, Rachel's voice said as the battle continued. It consumed species that tried to minimize their losses and fight efficiently. But humanity doesn't fight to preserve ourselves. We fight to ensure our enemies don't survive to threaten anyone else. The final phase of the battle was almost anticlimactic. The Void Swarm, the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced, simply fell apart. Its ability to maintain cohesion failed completely when faced with an enemy that refused to follow predictable patterns. As the last fragments of the swarm dissolved into harmless energy, the human fleet regrouped. Katie stared at the casualty reports in shock. Humanity had lost over 12,000 ships and nearly 3 million lives, but they had done something the entire Galactic Federation couldn't accomplish. They had completely destroyed an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. Admiral Rachel Brooks appeared on the main screen one final time. Her expression was calm despite the massive losses her people had suffered. The galaxy is safe, Admiral Morrison. The Void Swarm is completely eliminated. As agreed, humanity will be taking our place in the Federation Council. Katie looked out at the stars, understanding that everything had changed. The galaxy had been saved by inviting its most dangerous children to the table. Admiral Brooks, Katie said slowly, your people sacrificed so much to save us. How do we ever repay that debt? Rachel's smile was sad but determined. You repay it by keeping your word, by treating us as equals, by remembering that sometimes the only way to defeat a monster is to unleash a bigger monster. She paused, then continued. Admiral Morrison, the Federation wanted Guardians to protect the galaxy. Instead, you've awakened something far more effective. You've awakened humans who care about more than just themselves. Katie nodded, understanding the weight of what had happened. The Federation had survived by accepting humanity as allies, but now they would have to learn to live with the consequences of that choice. The galaxy was safe from the Void Swarm. The question that remained was whether it could survive having humanity as its protectors. But as Katie looked at the empty space where an unstoppable enemy had been just hours before, she realized that was a problem she was grateful to have. The Federation had wanted to survive. They had succeeded, but at the cost of everything they thought they knew about civilization and warfare. Humanity had shown them that sometimes, the only way to preserve peace was to embrace the capacity for total war. The stars shone brightly in space where darkness had ruled just hours before. And somewhere among those stars, humans were already planning how to protect their new galactic neighbors from any future threats. The galaxy had new guardians. Whether that was salvation or something else entirely remained to be seen.